With these things too. So as Ken said, I'm Diana Smith. I'm one of the members of the program committee. And I really can't take credit for recruiting Harry. The credit for that goes to Ruth Caldwell, who unfortunately is not here, but she was the one who made this happen. And I asked Harry earlier, I'm sure you all read the article either in the newsletter or in the newspaper. I said, how would you like to be introduced? And he said, well, this isn't about me, this is about the Saguaro. So without further ado, Harry Thorne.
Thank you very much, Diane. And thanks for all of you coming today, taking time out of your schedule. We have, I know, a number of people from the hiking club, a few distinguished guests, including a couple from the Crested Saguaro Society. And mostly I'd like to thank the hiking club because they have been doing so much for the residents of Saddlebrook for decades. And I give them a hand. At the end of the presentation, my wife Caroline, who's here somewhere, is going to distribute a one-page handout that has all the key information that I'm going over today, as where to find some crested saguaros, because they're hard to find, and also some of the articles and videos that are out there on the Crested Saguaro Society. This is Perfection, which you saw earlier, and this is the American flag. This is for Bob Cardell. Bob was a lieutenant colonel, retired in the Marines, Semper Fi. I was a lowly Army grunt in Vietnam, and I'm surprised Bob put up with me. So thanks for all the veterans in the audience. We appreciate your service. Bob Cardell and Pat started this society back in 2005. They were members of the Southern Arizona Hiking Club and all these other accolades that are up there on the screen, including doing over 1,000 Arizona peaks. As far as the Crested Saguaro Society, they found over 2,000 crests, and I call them the godfather and godmother of crests. This is how Bob used to start off the slide. It's been updated by me. I did it a couple years ago for the Southern Arizona Hiking Club to honor Bob and Pat, and now I'm doing it for you. The oldest picture of a crest is 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair, when Arizona was still a territory. We don't know what happened to that one, but we suspect it froze in the Chicago winter. Here's another picture here from the Cactus and Succulent Society. If you look at the website, there's a whole section of historical photos. So far today, we've documented 3,743 crested saguaros out of 50 million saguaros. The mission of the Crested Saguaro Society is to protect the saguaro environment, preserve history, that's part of our website, and then enhance enjoyment. So, one way to enhance enjoyment is to hug a saguaro. This just happens to be the world's second largest saguaro by Joe P., who's on the right, and then Bob Cardell on the left. And Bob never used to have his picture in any of the slideshows he did, but I added some. So you can see who he was, the late Bob Cardell. Cactus thievery is a problem. Just like everything else, this guy didn't get away, obviously. But now, 1,000 saguaros are microchipped in Saguaro National Park to protect the most vulnerable of the saguaros. The short ones, the ones that are close to the road, a number of them have been stolen. but now some of them are microchipped. The crested saguaro cactus, also referred to as a fan-top cactus or a cristate, is classified under Arizona law as a highly safeguarded protective native plant. According to Arizona law, it is unlawful to destroy, dig up, mutilate, collect, cut, harvest, or take any living, highly safeguarded native plant. But if you get a permit, you can sell one. Here's one that was at Saguaro Country Nursery for sale for $45,000. If you look on the dark web, there was one for sale for $400,000. Bacterial necrosis kills saguaros. This was a very famous crested saguaro that many of you probably drove by on Rancho Vistoso Canyon by Honeybee Canyon. Again, which is another great hiking spot. Unfortunately, if you look at the base on the right, you'll see how old this saguaro was. And it's just one of the things that affects saguaros when they get 200 years old. It's so sad to see a dead crested saguaro. Here's Pat Hamas here, checking this one out. And now we have the CSS National Headquarters. Now you know we're an upscale group. And here's Pat again. She was taking a break. Thanks for your donations. Well, that's just a joke. We really don't need any donations. This really isn't our headquarters. The first real group meeting of the CSS was back in 2007. Bob Cardell did a presentation for the Arizona State Park representatives, ostensibly so he could get them to go out and look for crested saguaros for him. So we had a great time. Rex Heron is on the right. He's passed away. Cindy Heron is next, and she's here. I'll introduce her with Pat Hamas over here. Then Caroline, and a very young me. That was 17 years ago. I had a lot more energy then. And then the next person over with the hat and the beard is Ted Cotting. He's also here. And then Joe and Margie Plegenpool, who are two of the original members, are not here today. So let's discuss a bit about what Pat and Bob have read and learned about cristates. And Pat will attempt to answer the question, why did they do that, later. But for now, DNA is in progress. So how many out of 50 million saguaros do you think actually cristate? Well, actually, I'll give you the answer. It's 15,000 is the current number. When Bob and Pat first started, it was 1 in every 250,000. So how do you find the crested saguaro? Bob would never tell me his secrets. You know, he was a Marine. He was very secret. He wouldn't tell me. So I made up my own rules. First, you take the best off-road 4x4 vehicle. Then you go to the top of a peak around 4,600 because saguaros max out around 4,600. Then you use the most powerful Swarovski binoculars, and now you can also sometimes use Google Earth, and you get very lucky. And don't get frustrated. My motto is the Boy Scout motto, be prepared. But because the hiking club has all kinds of information on emergency preparedness, hiking guides, they'll tell you everything. So I'm not going on any of that in this presentation. Okay, take the best vehicles. You'd have to know this with Bob. He's the only one, and Pat are the only ones that would go out in the snow in an ATV. Not me. If it was easy, anybody could do it. But it took until 2005 until Bob and Pat actually did it. There's Bob's Jeep, his rescue ATV, and down in the bottom right-hand corner is the Crested Saguaro, or Crest Quest license plate that Rex Heron did when he was working at the Florence prison. Working, he wasn't a prisoner. Then you have Swarovski Optics. You can see Bob there with his Swarovski. You can see for miles. This was a trip we made down to Oregon Pipe. The 50-mile loop was closed for 11 years. It was finally open. So we went down to check it out and see if we can find any new Crested Saguaros. Bob stopped up on the road and he had a hint for someplace on the left. I headed off to the right and found this one, which I call Big Bertha, or Muy Grande Carlota. So Bob and Pat skunked us many, many times. This was a little revenge. Now, for those of you who are into birding, like some of our members, there's a new Swarovski smart binoculars that have a computer in them, and they can identify birds. Amazing. Instead of dragging around your little book and looking through it. Where else do you find Crested Saguaros? Out in the open range. As part of Bob and Pat's humor. Actually, Arizona has 9.2 million of Arizona state trust land. It's larger than the state of Rhode Island, Connecticut, Delaware, and Hawaii, or the 42nd largest state. Your hiking club folks to tell you how to get a permit. It's also about the same size as the country of Turkey. So you move to the right spot if you want to go out and look around in the open range. Trespassing. Yeah, there's a lot of private property out there too. Don't dare do it on the Golden Ranch property, if you haven't heard. They're famous for calling the sheriff and escorting you off the property. But as crest people say, well, we want to go see his crest. There must be some crests out there. Yeah, there are, but we just go on the north lot in the preserve and get out of binoculars and check them out. Not trespass. I don't want to get kicked off by the sheriff. This is one of the vicious beasts that was guarding their property. There was a whole bunch of them out there. The other types of crest, this is a ring-crested barrel. Almost all cactuses crest, but they're very rare. This is only the second ring-crested barrel known to exist. The first one is found by Joe Orman, one of our members who was here, and I found this last year. It's over in Oro Valley, if you want to go look for it. There was happens to be on the Viscoso Preserve golf course. There may be 20 or 30,000 people that went by this and didn't recognize it was a ringcrest. So now the city of Oro Valley knows about it, or the town of Oro Valley, and they're protecting it. And another type of crest is this segmented saguaro. If you want to find these, you need a great camera with a big zoom lens, and of course a GPS to document the location. This is right up in the hills here. You might not want to go up there because there's decades of cat claw up there, one of my least favorite plants, and I call this one Fairy Castle. They're pretty rare. Then there are the wise, the bunny ears, the rabbit ears, and they're out there. There are none of these in the presentation except for these. And Bob and Pat found this south of Honeybee Canyon. Then there's sidearm crest. On the left is Cookie Monster that I found off of Highway 86. You'll see the mouth up there. And on the right is Border Crosser. But if you go looking for that one now, it may or may not be there because it's right next to where they were building the border wall. And again, you have to go on the 50-mile loop down an organ pipe with your 4x4 vehicle. Then, the rarest of the rare, the ring crest. Only 102 known to exist. And if you look at the website, you'll see there's several other types of saguaro cactus that are very unusual. Even Ansel Adams photographed crest. This was a mural project in 1941 out of Saguaro National Park. So Bob and Pat read that just one healthy saguaro, which lives to the ripe age of well over 200 years, will produce approximately 40 million seeds. That's about 2,000 seeds in each piece of fruit. So what happens? Why so few of those turn into saguaros? Here are the ABCs of it. There they are, 1,997 seeds in this fruit. Bob took them all off and laid them out here for you to see. Crested Saguaro seeds. I tried to grow a crested saguaro. I've had no luck whatsoever. Here's actually one gigantic crested saguaro seed. And here's some seedlings. And after 200 years, this is what they look like. This is a 4x4 crest. There's two at the top, one down here, and then one on the left-hand side. It's probably one of the nicest ones that's around. If you want to know about saguaros, crested saguaros, you have to know saguaros. The people that studied the billion pairs of DNA for the saguaros wrote this book. And there's a lot of history in it. It tells like the Indian gathering stick. And so if you want to learn about saguaros, this is the best book to have. Okay, now let's look at some of the pictures. Pat and Bob have taken of cristate saguaros. They have documented the precise location of well over 2,000 from 214 in 2005. And of course, they're waiting for their book to be published and collecting a bunch of money. Here's their first picture of a cristate saguaro, February 5th, 2005, in Wild Barrel Canyon. I bet a bunch of you have been up there. Here's another one, in Tortolitos, a triple, and you see, of course, the Catalina Mountains back there in the back. Here's another beauty. Pat says, "Hey, Bob, there's one." There she is. She was riding shotgun. And the rumor is that she found more crests than Bob. But I'm not going there. No way. And this one used to be on the Pinal County line on what we call the Rail X Road out to the mine in the Tortolitos. This is the same crest, and the other threat to the saguaros and many cactus around Tucson, as you saw, was the 2007 and 2011 freeze. Millions of dollars of plants were lost in those freezes. And you remember that snow image, Bob in the ATV? Well, this was it. And it's based on my research. This is the oldest crested saguaro picture with snow on it. There's another one on Wade Road. And again, guard dogs everywhere. This is a very unusual one. And PLs, or power lines, in the background. Here's another beauty and Wilmot Road. And as you see here, sometimes the crests go back to regular saguaro arms. Not always, just sometimes. Again, nobody knows why, because the DNA hasn't been analyzed yet. Here's a beauty. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this. This is a mountain on the Tahana Odom Reservation. Here's another weird one. On Sasco Road near Ragantop, out near Ironwood National Monument. This is right next to the Ironwood National Monument sign. Here's another one, obviously in the Toledos, and you'll see a rare prickly pear cactus in there. Sometimes the birds deposit seeds, the wind blows in the dirt, and I've seen a couple dozen. But last year, I was over in the Oro Valley, and I saw one saguaro with 4 big prickly pear growing out of it. That's by far the largest one I've seen. Here's a beauty that Bob and Pat found many years ago. Bob invited me to go jeeping and go out and check out some of their old saguaros and bring my big Canon camera and take some pictures. This was one of my favorites, and it's way out there. This was an all-day Jeep expedition. There's another one. You all might have seen it up in the Toledos in Wild Barrel Canyon. I'm sure many of you have seen the crest up in Wild Barrel. There's, I'd say, 8 or 9 on the various trails up there, and some really nice ones. This is, again, an unusual wavy pattern in the crest. This one was called the glove. It's gone now on 9/11. But if you look across from the Minute Mart, across the street, you'll see a big wavy crest there, or saguaro, but unfortunately it hasn't crested. Whether it crested or not, I have no idea. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's a nice one. Here's a nice one that you might have seen on Tangerine Road. If you drive around behind St. Mark's Catholic Church, still there, I saw it a couple months ago. This is a very, very unusual one. It was at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and somebody decided to relocate it to a main street in Tucson. Well, it lasted maybe 3 years before it just withered away. These large ones are very difficult to transplant. The good news is one of the members of the official Tucson Storm Chasers, which I'm a member, got a great picture of this one with lightning. Two big, huge lightning bolts. Up on Highway 79, Goff Ranch. There's tons of range cattle. You see the sticker up there. They're all around Saddlebrook and up on Catalina Hills Drive. And a lot of crested saguaros up there too. You just have to drive around on the dirt roads and look for them. This is another amazing one. It was called the Wing. It's gone now. Up in the upper left, you'll see a picture that I took when the Chihuly exhibit was there in 2009. If you want to see cactus, go to the Desert Botanical Garden in Phoenix. They have the best exhibit that I have seen in Arizona. They have crest. This one's gone now. But what's amazing, somehow these people keep getting new crested saguaros. One will die, and a new one will show up. They'll plant it right next in the middle of a trail. And the people will walk all over the roots, it'll die, and a new one shows up. And the other thing there is they have some magnificent cardones. They're like 40 feet tall, the type you see down. This is the crested rock. This is the crested saguaro. This is the same old story. Is it the chicken or the egg? Well, probably the rock was there first. Here it is. Bob and Pat found it west of Honeybee Canyon. This is a beautiful one, a ring crest. Now, I Googled and AI'd this address, and I could not find nothing. So one of these days, I'll have to go out and find this one, because it's a real beauty. Okay, here we have a one near Colossal Cave. I'm gonna have to look at my notes on this one, because going out looking for crested saguaros, you're also looking at Arizona history. So La Pasta Camada, or the Burnt Station, has a long and storied history that includes bandits, stagecoaches, ranchers, hotel owners, cowboys, and the Civilian Conservation Corps, among others. Its name is derived from a nearby Glitterfield stagecoach stop that burned to the ground in the 1860s. So, as you go out looking for crested saguaros, you'll also learn some Arizona history. All these PLs that were in the picture must mean something or other. Pat says it unequivocally proves that high voltage creates crestes. Well, that's just one of the many theories. And that's why we're having the DNA done. This is another beautiful one in Avila Valley. Over in that area, there's also a famous saguaro that has 78 arms. Maybe 80, it's hard to count. But if you're down there, you should go look for that one because it's well worth it. Okay, Bob and Pat used to document the various aspects of the crested saguaros. This is the shortest one. I don't know where they found it, but it's out there. This is the highest elevation one they documented. It's 4,576 feet. As you know, if you go up in the hill, you look at 4,600 feet, and there won't be any crests up there in the forest. They're cut off at that level.
Is it from the base to the top?
All the way to the top. And the largest saguaro that was documented was in 1924 National Geographic. I have a copy here somewhere, 78 feet tall. This is another really nice one. But when I saw this slide, I wondered, why in the heck is Pat standing way over there, away from the saguaro, instead of the normal selfie, right up next to the saguaro? Yeah, well, those nasty rattlesnakes like hiding out in the shade, sometimes under saguaros, crested saguaros. I'm sure you all have run into them. This is a nice triple cast, and if you look around here and you look at the saguaro, you'll see where the birds have made nests. This one was a nice happy face that they made. This is in a very saguaro and crest rich area up in Cascabel. Have you seen this one at ASU? Anybody from ASU? No? It's by the bookstore. Ah, it's at U of A. Sorry, you ASU fans. You can hit me later. This is going to show you the growth of the crest. As you can see, this saguaro just started cresting out. They usually crest out after about 75 years. Sometimes they don't crest out at all. They're just one big beanpole. This is 4 years later. And this is 16 years later. It showed you where it was on the slideshow. You can look at it on the YouTube. And you can see on the tips all the new growth. This is a very healthy one. I think somebody at the apartment building has been watering it. The saguaro bloom is the Arizona state flower since 1931. And yes, crested saguaros also have flowers and fruit. So here's an unbelievable picture. Here's crest number 1. Here's crest number 2. And here's crest number 3. As Bob said, the first time in history, 3 in a row. That's why I personally think the DNA is going to show that it's a genetic feature, but Who knows? Bob and Pat were into numbers and very meticulously kept track of saguaros. This was number 1,000. And there's Bob here with number 2,000, the picture I took, and our two Jeeps out in the middle of nowhere looking for it. Nearby this one, there's another really nice one, and I renamed it after Prince. It's Party Like It's 1999. So it's Crest 1999. So what do you do when you find 2,000 crests? You have a crest party, of course. In the upper left, you have Pat and Bob, part of the slideshow. There were presents, and there was a whole bunch of people, maybe this many, out for this stupendous occasion, for food, drinks, and a really great party. A lot from the Southern Arizona Hiking Club. Somehow I snuck in. Bob claimed that after 2,000 crests, he was not going to go find any more crests. He was going to quit. But if you knew Bob, you would know that there's no way he was going to quit. So the Saddlebrook ladies, horseback riding, hiking, adventure posse were out in Oregon, and they found this one, let me know. So I contacted the ranch owner, got permission, and went out and documented it, and we called it Magnifico. And as a present, I gave the ranch owner 2 pictures. Okay, now some of you are familiar with this area here, Catalina Mountains. This is my Catalina Mountain view that I've been doing since 2009. If you want a copy, you can email me. My email will be on the handout. And you have all the peaks that you all have hiked to. And in the middle, you have my first Crested Saguaro, plus a few other things. So the purpose of doing this for the Crested Saguaro Hiking Club was to show you more Crested Saguaros in your area. This one I found back on 2007. I call it Double Beauty. Took me a bunch of times up there to get a decent picture, and I'm sure your hiking guides will show it to you as you're going up towards Stone Rock. It's probably one of the nicest, 10 nicest in this area. Over in Catalina State Park, you have a famous one on the Canyon Loop on the left, so maybe about 100 foot off the trail. And on the right is a brand new baby. This came out about 2 years ago, and it's right by the visitor center, head east up the horse trail, and you can't miss it. There's several other in Catalina State Park, but they're not exceptional ones, so I didn't include them in this show. Then, one of my favorite is Humongous. This is, for me, was an all-day bushwhack to get to this saguaro. It's about 8 foot across. Again, one of my favorites. And another one up north of Saddlebrook is Granite Cliff Crest with a sundog. Unusual, you don't see them very often around here. And on the right is Seashell Crest, I think this was 2008, with a heavy bloom of poppies. Another one up there, north of here, this was called Poppy Hill Crest. I guess it tells you where it was. And I made several trips before I finally got this hawk taken off from this crested saguaro. Another one nearby is the largest crested saguaro arm that I've seen. We hiked by this many, many times before I finally found it. It's about 6 foot across. Huge. But it's hidden. There's another one in the North Carolinas that Bob and Pat found. I don't know where it is. Somewhere out there. I'll find it one of these days. This is another really rare one. You'll see the flat top. I know of only a couple other ones like this. This is near the CDO. And if you try and find this, you might be looking for a while, because the CDO is 48 miles long. But I'll tell you, this one is north of Saddlebrook, somewhere. This is probably my favorite one I found without bushwhacking. I called it Baby Jesus Ring Crested Saguaro with the 3 wise men's arms. I thought of AI Baby Jesus in there, but I decided that would be tacky. So, and again, we try not to name crested saguaros in locations where you find them. This is definitely not on the Baby Jesus Trail. This is another one up in the hills, east of Saddlebrook. I named this one Twisted Tree. I'm not sure why. This is in the 100 Best of the Best slideshow on the Crested Saguaro Society website. Here's a nice one. This was Double Beauty. It had 2 crests. I spotted this one. You'll see Saddlebrook back there about 5 miles in the background. But what happened is it hit by lightning, knocked off the 1 crest, and we only have the 1 left. On the left is my first crest I found while bushwhacking with Gary Wood. I knew there were crests, but I hadn't been out looking for them, and we just happened on this one up in the hills, and I called it Smoking Finger. The best story is, well, I sent it to Bob Cardell and told him where it was. So about 2 days later, I get an email. Oh, Harry, yeah, that's a nice one, but you missed 3 other ones that are around there. So that was the first time I got skunked by Bob Cardell, and there were many more. On the right, you've probably seen this one. This is a Saddlebrook Mass Singer. Used to have another name, but it was told you where it was, so we changed it to the Mass Singer. But the Dusting of Snow. On the left over there, this is a beautiful crest on, again, a named trail. Happens to be the upper 50-year loop, and I call it Steep Hill Crest because it's a steep climb to get up on the upper 50-year trail. On the right, a very rare saguaro Joe Orman and I found when we're out bushwhacking around, and I call this one Manatee. On the right is Baby Jesus, again, from a different angle. And on the left, you know, sometimes you get lucky when you're out wandering around, and I found this new crest up there, and it was a wavy one. And I thought, oh wow, I'm gonna watch this one. But then I went out looking around, and this was next to an old rock house. This is not the one you all know about up in the hills. This is another one. And I went inside, and there were hundreds of bones everywhere. Cattle, you name it. So my conclusion was it was a lion's den, and I got out of there quick. And I haven't been back, and I'm not telling you where it is. Here's 4 more that are out there around Saddlebrook. Different ones, different varieties. I would say there's probably 50 between Push Pea and Oracle. There used to be more, but a bunch of them got killed in the 2011 freeze. On the left, again, you'll see a baby newbie that Joe Orman found. We're out hiking around. And on the right is another newbie that I found near Humongous Grass. On the left is, I called it Harry's Hammerhead Crest because it looked like a hammer from my 40 plus years of scuba diving. And it's also called Smiling Crest. On the right, this fuzzy picture was, I'd been out all day. I spotted this one, and I wanted to get home for dinner and before it got dark. So I took this fuzzy picture and came back later and got a good picture. Because I didn't want to miss dinner. Here's another beautiful one north of Saddlebrook, another, how about a hug? And here's some newbies. And unfortunately, we have people that put graffiti on crests. And they put graffiti on Boulder Dam too. But my friends Gary Wood and Steve Aiken went up and painted over it. So hopefully it's no longer there. And there will hopefully be more future crests out there. Here's the Crested Saguaro Society website. And Joe Orman, Joe, will you stand up? Joe is the webmaster and crest master. And you think it's a job taking care of 3,000 crests? It is. It'd be a huge job. On this slide, I cut it off. There's 2 new parts. There's a link where you can report Crested Saguaros. And also, there's now a blog that Joe is doing about his various trips and the pictures that he takes. And he also has some really excellent prose that go along with the pictures. This again is all the counties that are on the website. And the top 3 counties, Pima, Pinal, and Maricopa, account for 76% of the crests. So you think about the rest of Arizona, there's not as many crests out there. And also you can check out the 100 Guest slideshow. Here's another one of Joe Orman's, Crowning Glory. And Joe has 2,240 crest pictures. I call him the Crest Master. Here's another one of Joe Orman's, Once in a Lifetime. Here's one of my favorite Rex Heron crest. How about a hug? I had to get a ladder to get up and get that top picture there. There's a tribute to Rex on the website, and this one is also in the Wall Street Journal article that you'll see in a while. Here is Ted Cotting's Queen fan. This is just absolutely stunning one. Ted's here, over here. Raise your hand, Ted. You can tell he hasn't the Crested Saguaro Society hat on. Here is one Phil and Frank Ozell found. They named it the Flip and Fluffy crest. The advantage of finding new crests is you get to name them and put GPS, but it's getting harder and harder, except for the new crests. In the next 2 days, we're going out and documenting a couple more new crests. Here are Ash Ponders and Caitlin O'Hara, which are carrying on the CSS legacy. They're both professional photographers. Ash, you'll see him on Instagram, and he was the photographer on the Wall Street Journal article. Caitlin, she shot the Super Bowl in Phoenix. These are big-time photographers working for all the famous publications in the United States. This is an analysis that Ted Cotting did of the 2023 crest that Bob and Pat found. If you think about going out there in the desert and finding 4.2 crests per day, when they're 1 in every 15,000, this is just a stupendous achievement. So when's the best time to go look for crests? When it's not 110 degrees. Raining, snowing, lightning, dark. Much harder in the spring when they all have those flowers and fruits on top. Sometimes you can't tell they're crests. When you have time, or like me, you're out looking for adventure. And again, remember, you have to go all the way around, otherwise you might miss the side crest. Here's our national media credit, an article in the Wall Street Journal. There's Eliza Collins, the author of the article. She was primarily a political reporter, but she moved back to Arizona and is covering Arizona and what is called on the Wall Street Journal AHEAD. AHEAD is kind of like the human interest stories. You look, they're just, you have everything. So anyway, Eliza does this. The link is on your one-page handout. We have other media credits. Arizona Public Media did an 11-minute YouTube. There's a bunch of articles in the Arizona Daily Star. We're on social media now, Crested Saguaro Facebook page, and we have a small army of folks out loving and documenting Crested Saguaros. Now, Ted also has an Instagram page called The Crested Saguaro, and Joe O has his own website, which is also on your one-page handout. This was from the Future of the Saguaro Scientific Conference, the first one at U of A. I was fortunate to attend because I'm obviously not a scientist, but I did this abstract over here, and I got in, and all the real scientists were there that were talking to the other scientists about, do cactuses get cancer? And that's part of the DNA analysis. For me, a lot of it, besides adventure, is photography. I like to go out and take pictures of crest. This one is with the Milky Way out in the Cascabel area. My iPhone measured the width and the height, and of course it never hurts to throw in an Ansel Adams quote. Okay, Trails In. A special thanks to all the members of the CSS and the great people who told us some of the locations, and I'm sure there's some in the audience here. Crested Saguaros on the left, Michael Hubbin and I were out wandering around, and we went to the next hill over. And Michael spotted this one, and he called it Trails In. So the Crested Saguaro is an Arizona treasure. That's all you get to see today. But just remember, the dangers of looking for crystal. I'm sure Bob Cartel would take you out there. I'm sure your hiking guides won't take you out there. And just when you thought it was safe to go in your Australian snake gaiters, now you have to think about wearing a hard hat. I don't know. Very unlikely, but possible. So thanks to all the CSS and your hiking club folks. Oh, there was a surprise. This was the last one. 5 years ago, I found out that ASU had received an $8.5 million grant from the National Cancer Institute to study DNA of crested saguaros. I contacted Carlo O'Malley, who's the head honcho, and on November 1st, 2021, DNA was taken from a crested saguaro. There's the part of the group up there. It was on Freeport McMoran mining property down in Green Valley, so we had to get their permission. So stay tuned for the results. Hopefully we'll see the press release sometime this year. Cancer research. So are there any questions? And my wife's going to hand out the one-page flyer to everybody. Yes.
Microphone?
Yes. Yes, it won't reach.
I'll come over here.
Okay.
Interesting story. We were leaving, I was just telling my son from Denver when he was visiting about the crested saguaro and how rare they were. We were leaving the visitor center at Saguaro West National Park, and we were maybe, I would say about 300 feet from the, maybe 300 yards from the parking lot. I was telling him about it, and he looked, and about how rare they were. He looks out and says, "You mean like that one over there?" And there was one right there, about 300 yards, perhaps north of the visitor center at Saguaro West.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that one. I found it, and I contacted Bob, and he said, "Oh yeah, I got that one 2 days ago." Skunked again. Yes, sir.
Gary, thanks for a great presentation. That was awesome. I wanted
It's my pleasure.
I have a question. You mentioned and you showed a picture of the crested saguaro that's on the Canyon Route Trail at Catalina.
Yeah.
Our hiking club frequently does that trail, and one of the things we point out about that saguaro is that the crest is in the middle of the saguaro instead of the normal crest that you see up at the top. And I wondered if you had any information about why some of the saguaros crest in the middle with arms going up and some are up at the top.
We have no idea. Whether the DNA will help with that, I don't know. We'll see. If you're on the 50-year trail, headed towards Saddlebrook, there's another where the big rock pile is. There's another one right off to the right, similar, that has Dean's Crest. It's called Dean's Crest, and but it's hidden in the cactus So it's very difficult to get a picture of, and you have to go bushwhacking to see it. Any other questions? Yes?
Of all the ones that are documented, do you have an idea of how many have more than one crest?
I'd say maybe 20% have more than one quest. You do see them. They're around. I found a new one this year in Tucson, right next to a apartment complex where the old Western movie people used to stay. So they're around, but they're rare. Much rarer than those white crests. They're everywhere. Yes, sir.
Did you say that a crested barrel is very rare?
A ring-crested barrel. There's lots of crested barrels. They're all over the place, but the ring crest on top is extremely rare. Joe Oren has the only other one that I know of. But again, it's like people walk by these things all the time. They don't know what they are, or they don't think they're unusual. So, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I missed the very beginning. Did you say where are crested saguaros found? Just in Arizona or other places?
Yeah, just in the Sonoran Desert. There's some in Mexico, northern Mexico, but you go further down, you have cardones. There's a couple that have been transplanted to Las Vegas, but it's not an ideal situation. There's the one I found at the California, Arizona, Nevada border, but most of them are in the Sonoran Desert.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Talk about chipping the saguaros. Is there any effort to chip the crested?
Not right now. The main issue is most of them are nowhere near a road. They're out in the boondocks. It's hard to get up there, and they're not. It's hard to steal them because, as you may know, trying to relocate these ancient saguaros is very, very difficult. There's only a couple people in Tucson that have done it successfully out of Dove Mountain, where the golf course was done. It's just too difficult to do it. And we have pictures of them all. So, for instance, one showed up in Las Vegas. Guess what? We knew which one it was. We highlighted the Arizona authorities, and the people got in a ton of trouble for digging it up and taking it to Las Vegas. Yay. Any other questions? Oh, I'm right on time. Thank you.